So in this video, we are going to look at Lab 6, that is storage account REST API. Okay. We will look at why we need to use REST API if we have limited privileges, right? And how REST APIs could help us to retrieve data from the storage account, but PowerShell modules will not allow you to retrieve that data. Okay. So I've already started the lab and we can click on Get Info, and here we can see that we have client ID, client secret, and the tenant ID. This is the information that we are going to use to authenticate using our easy PowerShell. And then the task is to gain access to the content stored inside the storage account container. Okay, so let us start the PowerShell console. I have the pseudocode ready for authentication, so I'll just paste that pseudocode here, and I'll replace the placeholders. Like first is client secret, so we would go and access the client, copy the client secret, that is this value. I'll remove the space so that we can place that here. I'll copy the client ID information, can paste that here, and then I'll copy the tenant ID information and I'll paste that here. And let's try to authenticate first. So we can see that the authentication was successful, and the first thing that we see is the subscription name field is populated, which means the current user has some access on some resources in Azure, right? Let us try to enumerate those resources. Get hyphen easy resource. We'll run this command. Note that this command will only work in case you have a read privilege on a specific resource. Otherwise, even this command is not going to work. Okay. So now we can see here that we have access to a storage account. Okay. And inside this particular resource group. Okay. First thing that we will check is what are the role that is assigned to a current user. So we'll use the command that is get hyphen easy role assignment and run this command. And we can see that we managed to get an output. We got a role definition name, role definition ID, role assignment name, role assignment ID, role definition name, and the role definition ID here, right? So we'll copy the role definition ID. We'll use the command get hyphen easy role definition and specify the ID and try to enumerate this. Right, we can see that there are multiple custom roles that are assigned. Okay, the first role, that is Microsoft.authorization slash role assignment slash read. Note that this is the role that is assigned, and hence our get easy role assignment command gave us an output. If this specific role is not assigned on that target resource, get easy role assignment will give us an empty output, right? There is a way to get the output, get the permission enumerator using REST API, but we are going to discuss that later in some of the lab environment, right? So now this other role that is assigned is first Microsoft.storage slash storage account slash read. This gives us a privileges to read the storage account. That is the main reason our get hyphen easy resource command give us an output, right? And then we have a command or a role that is assigned is Microsoft.storage slash storage account slash blob service slash containers slash read, which means this privilege would allow us to at least read the container detail. Okay, and at the last we have the permission, that is the data action permission, that is Microsoft.storage slash storage accounts slash blob services slash container slash blob slash read, which means we can read the content or the files that are present inside a specific container and also download those files or read the content of those files. Okay, so first let us try with easy PowerShell command and see what is the limitations of why we cannot retrieve the data using easy PowerShell. First thing that we will do is we'll try to extract the context value of the storage account. For that, we would use the command get easy storage account. Storage account, and we can directly run this command. No need to pass additional parameter because we only have one storage account. So if we see, we managed to get an output. Okay, I'll store this output to a variable. We'll name it as stg. Okay, and we'll store the output. This variable should have a context property. That is, if I run this, I should see the context property here. But if you see this, it is almost empty because by default, a current user do not have privileges to list a container using AZ PowerShell. I'll show you the limitation or the reason why we can't do that. So we'll run another command, that is get hyphen AZ storage container storage context, and then we'll pass the stg dot context information. Let us see if it works. Now you can see that we managed to get an error. Why? So now if you read this error, you'll see that this action, that is Microsoft.storage slash storage account slash list key action, this is not permitted or not allowed on our specific storage account, right? Because you when we enumerated the rules, we saw that this rule or this permission was not present, right? So now let us try to do this using REST API, right? For that, I'm going to copy paste a PowerShell script so that we don't do any typo. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to request a access token for storage account service, that is storage.azure.com. Okay. I need to replace the storage account name here. So I'll just copy the storage account name from the error and I'll replace this in the endpoint. We know that storage account name is always a subdomain if we are trying to list the containers, or basically it is like a globally unique name across the entire Azure environment, right? So now let us run this command. There are a few important things to know before we run this command. That is, whenever you're trying to access the storage account using REST API, there is one parameter that is mandatory. That is this parameter. That is x-ms-version. Okay, and in this query string, you can see we have mentioned that comp equal to list. This is basically useful when we are trying to list the containers. Okay, so I'll run this command and let's see what is the result. And we can see that we got an XML output as a result. And if we go through that output, we'll see that this is a container name. So this is where the container name is, right? So now we got the name of a container. So what we would do, we'll pass this container name in a current REST API call. I'll mention this here. And I'll add an additional query string parameter that will be rest type equal to container. That is basically a resource type equal to container and an ampersand, and then we'll try to list the files that are present inside the container. Okay, I'll run the same command again and let's see what is the output that we get. We got some error. We can see that invalid query parameter. So let us see what is the error. What is that we have mentioned wrong, right? So I'm just going to go through that. So the storage account name, we have the container name. Okay, the difference or the typo is this. It should be rest type. I'll run this again. And now we can see the query was proper, right? And that's why we managed to get the output. And this container, there is only a single file that is present, and that is a text file. Now if we can read this particular text file, again we'll copy the value, that is basically the name. We'll specify that here. I just remove this part. I'll make sure to add a slash. And now when we run this particular command, we should be able to read the content that is present in this particular text file. And if I run this, and you can see that we managed to get an output, that is, here is your secret, great job. And that's all for this particular video. Thank you.